Hi, everyone. It is Jamie Joe right here with Madlit Musings, and I'm excited to have a return visitor with us today. We have Jordan Millsaps. And did I pronounce the last name right?
Yes, you did.
I did. Ah, good. I thought I did, and then I was like, oh, shoot. What if I didn't?
Nope,
I have
you
a thing
nailed
with
it.
last names. Good. Well, welcome back. Welcome back to Madlit Musings.
Hi, Jamie. Thanks for having me.
It's fun to have you here. And we were just, before we hit record, we were talking about the eclipse that we just experienced and all the weird things that have happened this year already. So it's been a fun start to the year.
Yeah,
So, but you have a new book out, which just released called The Parenting Pact.
I do. Yes.
So
It's
congratulations
a
on that.
yeah, it's my second book, and I was afraid that releasing new books it would get less exciting, but so far it's just as exciting as the first one. So yes.
Good, good. That's exactly how you want it to be. You don't ever want to lose that excitement of a new book coming out and readers getting to see it and all that. So that's awesome. So,
Yeah,
and you write rom-com, correct?
I do.
It's a romantic
Yes,
comedy.
yes.
All right. All right. So tell us a little bit about this amazing new second novel from Jordan Millsaps.
Okay, sure. So, like you said, it's called The Parenting Pact. It's a single parent rom com. So, you have Maddie, who has a son named Rowan, and then you have Chris, who has two children. He has a son that's Rowan's age named Chris, and the boys are friends at school. And that's how Chris and Maddie meet. And then he also has a little girl named Olivia, and she's my favorite. She's very sassy and precocious and has lots of questions.
Oh, that's fun.
So yeah, so they meet and they kind of hit it off, mostly just because their sons are friends.
Okay.
And then a few different things happen, and they start to think, it would be really helpful if we had somebody else to kind of fill in the gaps since we're single parents and
Hmm.
you've got work things and child things. And so they decide to have an agreement to help each other out with that kind of stuff. And over the course of getting to know each other and helping out with each other's kids and lives, they fall in love, much to no one's surprise.
Much to no one's surprise. I like that.
Yes.
That's great. I love the fact that you have a rom-com centered around single parents because I think, I could be wrong, but it seems like we don't get a lot of single parents in fiction within the inspirational market or even
Mhm.
the clean fiction market or, some of those markets that tend toward the more conservative and traditional side of things. So what made you want to tackle a single parent romance?
Well, part of it was I kind of backed myself into a corner because I wrote Maddie in the previous book with a son,
Okay.
and she was a single parent. And then I was like, oh, well, I have to do something with this now because she was next up on my list to write the Lockwood siblings.
Yep.
Um, but also, I think, we all know people who are single parents,
Yeah.
either for a lot of different reasons. There's a lot of ways that you end up as a single parent.
Hmm.
Um, and like you said, you don't see that a lot in like the sweet or inspirational or Christian market. And I feel like there's a gap there because
Yeah.
I mean, you have people at your church. I have people at my church who are single parents for
Hmm.
one reason or another.
Hmm.
And so I just thought it would be interesting to try to explore that and kind of see what would happen with two single parents coming together to fill in those gaps.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it was kind of tricky for me to write because I do know single parents, but I'm not a single parent. And
Hmm.
so I tried very hard to be sensitive to, well, because the other thing is both of them, the reason they're single is because they have lost their spouse,
Hmm.
and I also have never lost my spouse. So
Hmm.
this was a challenging book for me to write, to
Yeah.
try to approach it with sensitivity and
Yeah.
make sure that I treated those topics with respect as far as the single parenting
For
and
sure.
the widow or widower, to make sure that they were not taken lightly, because it is a romantic comedy, right? So you don't want to like poke fun at something that is
Right.
really not funny, but you do want it to
Right.
be lighthearted. So it was a little difficult to walk that balance. Hopefully
Hmm.
I've done that, but people said that I did, so hopefully
Well,
they're
that's
not lying
good.
to me.
That's good. That's good. It's interesting because um when you talk with single parents, you've got the gamut of a single parent who's never been married, you've got a single parent who's gone through divorce, and then you have a single parent who's gone through the loss of a spouse. And they're all very different types of single parents. You cannot lump them into one unit because they all
Hmm.
have a different experience, obviously, in how they relate to their child through the involvement of the other parent or the uninvolvement of the other parent. So
Hmm.
kudos to you for tackling that. I think it's great and we need more of it for sure. for sure.
Yeah, thanks. Like
Awesome,
I said,
awesome.
hopefully I did a good job.
Well, I think as authors, we all kind of hope we do, because at some point it seems like we tackle subjects that we don't necessarily always have firsthand
Yeah.
experience in. And we're always wanting to be sensitive to that. But I think it's good that you're sensitive to that, and I'm sure that's going to be appreciated by a lot of people who want to read some single parent romance. So that's awesome. Okay, so what's the premise of the story then? You've got the two parents, they have children, they're basically trading, I don't want to say services, but they're trading, that sounds
I
awful,
mean,
but they're trading like help, right? Like they're trading
yeah.
time. So, do they get in scrapes and stuff that start throwing them together, or is there tension between the two somehow, or what's that?
Yeah, so the tension looks like okay, so let me back up a little bit.
Okay.
So, we at the beginning of the story, what you learn pretty quickly is Maddie is not interested in dating. She has had the love of her lifetime, and she
Mm-hmm.
doesn't think that that's going to happen for her again. She's not really interested. She's happy. She's content with her and Rowan. But she branches out and starts her own business. She's been working for the family business. They have a realty business, and she's
Okay.
been working as an interior designer for them, staging homes, things like that. And she wants to branch out on her own and have her own interior design business where she can, do the projects that she wants to do and be more involved rather than
Mm-hmm.
just like staging. So
Right.
when she does that, of course, anybody who's ever owned a small business, it sucks up a lot of your time.
Yes, it does.
And if you don't have somebody to fill in those gaps with your kids, that's just really challenging. And so um, she that's what gives her the initial idea is being late to pick up Rowan from school one day, and she's called all of her friends and brothers, and nobody's
Mm.
available. And so she says it dawns on her, hey Chris, why don't you pick up Rowan today? And so at the same time, Chris has got his own work stuff going on where he's been offered a promotion that he really wants to take, but it's going to require a lot of travel. And he doesn't really have anybody that can keep the kids overnight.
Sure.
It's a big problem for him to leave them that long.
Right.
So those are the two kind of inciting incidents that make them say, yeah, this could be. It's a little weird, but it might work for us. So yeah, so they kind of get to know each other. They decide to go ahead and have this parenting pact where they will look out for each other. And so they start seeing a lot of each other because they're kind of trading meals. The boys are already best friends anyway, so they're over the moon that they get to spend all this time at each other's houses.
Right.
And they live really close to each other. So, I mean, they're just like right around the corner from each other. So it's easy to pop back and forth. And so that's kind of where it starts. And then of course Maddie's not interested in dating, but Chris is immediately drawn to her. And
Mm-hmm.
so it's kind of a he falls first situation where he's ready to go all in, and she's like, pump the brakes, I don't
Yeah,
this is not what I came here
this
for.
wasn't part of the pact.
Yes, yeah, so that's where a lot of the tension comes in. Is he's trying not to pressure her, but like he's really into her,
Yeah.
and she's like, I mean, you're kind of a great guy, but I just am not sure I'm there yet. And so that's where a lot of the tension comes in.
That sounds like so much fun. And I think, well, I guess I shouldn't say I think, I would imagine with three children as extra characters in the book, there's going to be a lot of fun mishaps and energetic little quips and sayings.
Oh yes, lots of Nerf guns and things get spilled, and yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
there's lots going on there. Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about how you handle deep topics like, you have two characters who have both experienced loss. But like you said earlier, you're writing rom-com, so you want to
Mhm.
handle it sensitively, but not necessarily go into a deep women's fiction dive into
Yeah.
loss. How do you handle that balance? Like, what types of things did you do, or how did you prepare to go into it?
Well, I mostly tried to focus the comedy parts on other things. And so, when they do, you can't have a story like this and not have at least a little bit of a discussion between the two characters about like their previous,
Right.
the other parent of their children.
Hmm.
And so, those conversations that they have, I think are pretty serious. They're, pretty, um, pretty serious conversations there, and then I just tried to focus the comedy part on other things, like you said, like the
Hmm.
kids and the crazy things that they do and say, and awkward moments between Maddie and Chris that don't have anything to do with
Right.
their previous spouses or anything like that. So
Yeah. Yeah.
that's, I'm sure there are other ways to do it, but that's how I looked at balancing it, was to
Hmm.
just not really aim any of the comedy part at the things that people might think were more serious.
Right, right. And then when you had the more serious sections, how did you research, I guess, or how did you go into the thought process of addressing the fact that, and there's got to be a lot of nuances. You've lost your spouse, so there's an
Mm-hmm.
element of you want to stay loyal to them, their memory, um, and yet you're feeling this tug toward a new person. How did you go into that? Like, did you talk to people who had experienced that? And I'm sure that was probably pretty sensitive to try and do.
Well, I didn't really talk to anybody, like, face to face.
Hmm.
I did, like you did a little research, like some Google searches about, recovering from loss and things like
Hmm.
that, just to kind of give me a little bit of a background. And then I really just tried to imagine. This was the not very fun part of like sitting down and being like, okay, if I lost my spouse, like
Yeah.
just imagine what that would be like for a few minutes, and trying to put myself in that frame of mind,
Hmm.
and kind of feel those emotions at least for a few minutes, so that I could, put that onto the page, as
Right.
accurately as I could. But
Right.
like you said, so I mean, everybody's loss is different,
Hmm.
and even the way that they lost their spouses was very different. So, one of them was lost after a kind of prolonged illness, and one of them was lost in a tragic accident. And so there's just a lot of differences. And so that's kind of part of what they talk about in their
Okay.
discussions, is the differences between how they lost their spouse and how they've moved on.
Right.
So,
Right. Interesting. That's so cool. That's so cool. I love just those rom-coms where you can tackle some of the deeper subjects, but do it in a way where you don't come out feeling heavy either, right? You can see the hope that's going to come out in the end, and the joy that can come out from the redemption of time and how God brings us through healing. So,
yeah, I hope that's what is conveyed in the story, because I really want people to see that. Again, I have not lost a spouse, but I know
mhm,
that any loss, you can come out on the other side, and there is hope, especially
right.
like you said, when we have our Savior to believe in. So,
Right, exactly.
um, yeah, so hopefully people will see it as that kind of
Hmm.
ray of hope at the end of the rainbow.
Awesome. Awesome. And so they can get this book anywhere, correct? Or is it on Amazon only, or where do they get the book, The Parenting Pact?
Yeah, so the ebook is only on Amazon, because it
Okay.
is available on Kindle Unlimited. So it's
Hmm.
the
Aha.
excuse me, the ebook is exclusive to Amazon,
Okay.
um, but you can order the paperback from Barnes and Noble, Books a Million, Amazon, wherever you would buy a paperback, you can get that.
Great. Great. And this is book two in a trilogy that's
It is, yes,
being
it's
written?
the
Okay.
Boyfriend in the Bargain trilogy. Yes,
Yes. Yes. Awesome. Okay. And so the first book title was what? I know we talked about it a while ago, but can't remember the
it's the
title.
Wedding Date Deal.
The Wedding Date Deal. And then we have The Parenting Pact. And do we have a title for book three, or are we still working on
No, I think I have titled it after much much
that?
stress. For some reason, these two, the other two, the first two titles came to me very quickly, like they just kind of fell into place. And
Sure.
I really, really studied synonyms and all kinds of things for the
Yeah.
third one, because I wanted it to fit with the theme of the. Anyway, it's going to be called The Kitchen Contract.
Oh, that sounds fun. The kitchen contract.
Yes,
I like that.
yes.
I like that.
That'll
And
be
that
Alex's story. So that'll be
that's
all three
fun.
siblings.
All three siblings. That's cool.
Hmm.
I love it. I love it. So, alongside with your writing, you also do some other fun stuff in the writing world. Tell us a little bit about that too.
Yeah, so I think you're talking about Spark Flash Fiction,
Yes.
which is online magazine. We publish four issues a year,
Hmm.
and we select usually about 8 to 10 submissions. From people can submit from whether you've been published or not, flash fiction stories that fit our theme. And we will select 8 to 10 of the best ones, and we'll help you edit it, and then we'll publish it in our magazine. And we have really awesome featured authors that come alongside us every issue, and submit a story for us, a featured story.
Hmm.
And I think you're actually going to be one of our featured authors later this year. So
Yeah, I'm looking
that's
forward to that.
exciting.
I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah.
That'll be fun.
Yeah, but I really love it. Flash fiction is such a good way for writers to kind of dip their toe into the writing world. And
Mm-hmm.
Spark has was my first publishing credit, and I know that I've heard that it's been that for several people.
Mm-hmm.
Give them kind of that nice little boost of like somebody actually wants to read what I have to write.
That's
so,
great. You know,
so it's really fun.
it's funny too, because with the Spark Flash fiction, I mean, they're what? There's a minimum or a maximum of what, like 1,500 words?
A thousand.
1,000. Wow, I'd even
Yes.
upped it. It is
Yeah.
really hard to convey a story idea in 1,000 words. I don't know if people realize how difficult that is.
Yeah. Yeah, you can write 1,000 words pretty quickly, but to have it
Yes,
have like a beginning, middle, and an end and be comprehensive and cohesive
yeah,
and actually like romantic and fun to read, yeah, it's a little tricky.
it is. It is. And then when you were like, you invited me to be on, I'm like, oh yeah, I'll help. I'll be a featured author. And then I'm like, how am I going to write this in 1,000
What have
words?
I done?
This is worse than a full-length novel.
Yeah, it's tricky, but it's a lot of fun, and they're good for flash fiction is really good for people who want to like because this is how I got into writing rom-com because I started out writing
Okay,
historical fiction for
right,
a long time.
right.
And then I did a couple of rom-com flash fiction stories, and I was like, I really like this. I think I could
Mm-hmm.
write like a whole novel. So
Mm-hmm.
flash fiction is really good for like trying new things.
Yeah.
Just dip your toe in and try something new and see if it works for you. And
Mm-hmm.
people use them for like leaf magnets for their email list or just to
Yep.
put out on social media so that people get a taste of their writing style and that kind of thing. So
Yep.
it's really good for that.
Yeah. No, I think that's great. So if people wanted to dip their toes in flash fiction, how do they
Mm-hmm.
find Spark?
Yeah, so you just go to sparkflashfiction.com and you'll find all the information for upcoming themes and submission guidelines. You can read past issues and kind of get an idea of the kind of things that we're looking for. Really, our major guideline is 1,000 words or less, and it has to include romance. We always include romance in our stories. So we're
Which now,
making a spark.
yeah, right. Which you're making a spark, which now, I'm like, not only do I have to try and write something in 1,000 words, but I have to add romance, which for me is like, oh, that's hard enough to do in a full-length novel. Can she fall in love with a ghost? Let's see.
Oh, I don't know. Maybe she can.
Like
I don't
that's
know.
never been done before. Harken
It's
back
never
to
been done by you. So
No, it hasn't. It hasn't. Maybe she'll fall in love with the ghost of a cat. That sounds weird. I don't think that's the
that
kind
sounds
of
a little speculative.
that's not really romantic. It's more like cuddly.
Yeah.
So as writers can see as or hear as you're listening, it's not as easy as it sounds.
Yeah, it can be
Uh,
tricky, but it's also a lot of fun. So,
mhm.
I mean, I think even, you're a pretty seasoned writer and it's a good exercise to kind
It
of
is.
push yourself to do something different.
It really is. It really is. And okay, so if I'm a reader and I'm listening to this podcast and I have zero interest in writing 1,000 words, but I
Mhm.
have interest in reading, is it the same website to go to just read like your quarterly magazine?
Yeah, it is just sparkflashfiction.com. And you can even subscribe to our email list so that when a new issue comes out, it'll just come straight to your inbox. So you don't even have to look for it.
Perfect.
It'll just come to you.
Even better. Even better. I
Yes.
like it. When that pops in my inbox, I'm always like, oh, hold the phone. I've got to read this. This is cool.
Yes. Yeah, I do the same thing, and I've often read several of them beforehand, and I still
Yeah.
go back through and read them all
Hmm.
because they're just so fun.
They are
And
fun.
it's the other thing that's cool about it is, I mean, it's 1,000 words, so it takes you what, like 5 minutes to read a
Right.
story.
Right.
So you can space them out over a couple of days and have yourself
Uh-huh.
little treats.
It's a perfect little story over your morning coffee. I'm not gonna
Yes.
lie. It really
Yeah.
is. It really is. Oh, this is fun. So anybody who's listening, you're gonna want to get Jordan Millsap's new book, The Parenting Pact, and check out her other book that she published prior to that I already forgot the title of again because I'm horrible with names and titles.
The wedding date deal.
Thank you. The Wedding Date
Yes.
Deal. All I could remember was your book three title, which I'm not even going to say because I don't want to confuse people because that one's not out yet.
No, not
But
yet. Soon.
but anyway, head out, get your copy of the book, follow Jordan on social media, check out Spark Flash Fiction. You won't regret that. And Jordan, we'll have to have you back for book three.
I would love that.
All right. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you.